obviously reskilling and upskilling the sector is at the forefront of our industry. So it's nice to hear from people like yourself about your journey across the sector and what advice you could give to other people. So before we start, do you mind talking us through your career to date and why you're here today?
Yeah, sure, Brong, and thanks so much for having me. I think it's a great event this year, and yeah, let's start. My career. So I started as studying mechanical engineering in Germany. So born in Germany, grew up there, did my uni. It was actually mechanical engineering and business, kind of combined thing. And I started then after uni my career in sales, technical sales. Need to explain products, and started in automation, where actually it was a quite interesting job. It was automation of breweries and food and beverage, and we did actually a few energy management systems at that time. So it was not as en vogue, but it was already a thing.
Yeah.
And after this stint, I moved more into the field. So I had quite a big part of my career in valve automation.
Mm-hmm.
So working on all the automated valves that are across the process industries. And after that, I joined John Crane, which is another, let's say, facet of the flow control business. Mm-hmm. Our focus is mainly on rotating machinery like pumps, compressors, as well as filtration. So a lot of critical equipment in the field, and having this top-down approach in the beginning of my career, where you look at the P&IDs and the control panels, you understand the process plans, and then it's really going into the details, and you have these critical components that were just a symbol on the map. In between, I moved to Japan. When was it? In 2012, I moved to Japan, and I lived there for roughly 10 years before I came back to Europe, and now live in the UK. Yeah.
Amazing. So your career has taken quite like a natural flow from mechanical engineering. You've stayed in kind of the components level. What drives you kind of today, and why did you choose coming into the hydrogen and energy transition sector?
Well, I due to the nature of my business in the process industries, I was focused a lot on oil and gas business, and I met a lot of really fantastic people. I mean, the people on the ground, they are great, very professional, the culture is great, but at some point you get your second thoughts. It's like, is the thing that we are doing right? And my employers were always like equipment manufacturers, so we are not doing plants, but we are enabling those plants, and we also make sure that they are safe and reliable, less leakages. But a few years back, I saw this whole dynamic around hydrogen in particular, starting where a lot of people still said this is just another kind of cycle and will disappear. But I thought it's real. So I started as a side initiative looking into those markets and looking into what does it mean for our business. And at some point I was fortunate enough that I got nominated for our new energies team to look after the hydrogen CCS platform, how we call it. So really to get our company ready for the future business. Yeah. And that's what I'm still doing today. Yeah.
Amazing. So obviously our industry is a roller coaster. There are the challenges. So what are a couple of like the major challenges that you faced, and like how did you navigate through?
Well, I think like everyone sees currently, especially in hydrogen, the market is still very small. So to justify any investment, you need to really be sure that this will translate into real growth in the future. And I think for myself, I did a lot of market deep dives, and our numbers are pretty much in line with what we see, but they're still relatively small compared to the main business. But on track, so I think like towards 2030 it will still good growth, but small numbers, so they're getting bigger. But after 2030, probably we will see a really steep increase in the business. So it's really now getting ready, making those references, going through the learning curve, especially to be ready when it's getting big. We have many more opportunities in the large-scale plants than in the small-scale plants, but still we provide also critical filters or seals in like a megawatt electrolyzer plant or a hydrogen refueling station. And we also have already supplied seals, for example, for the major compressors on the largest green hydrogen project in the Middle East, 2 gigawatt. So, I mean, we see it's possible, and yeah, I think it's just like you're on a journey, but really having this, stamina and passion going through it to believe in the growth.
Yeah, definitely. So you talk about there the Middle East, a nice big project there for you. So what's another maybe like achievement in terms of fighting climate change that you feel really proud of?
Well, I mean, I think it's a lot of small things really for me,
Yeah.
but personally, it was a real challenge, and I didn't mention it before, to position a business like John Crane, which is a component manufacturer, in this new ecosystem of hydrogen, where everyone started thinking very high level, naturally, but you could not go to such a, let's say, hydrogen conference and start talking about filters or seals, and you lose people immediately.
Yeah.
So we had to really think like, okay, we know it's very critical, but you need to make it relevant for people. So we started thinking, okay, John Crane actually is a sealing business at heart. So we are actually preventing emissions, leakages for more than 100 years as a business. And filtration is another very critical thing. It's about purification of hydrogen. Everyone knows that the purity is very critical, even if they are not experts in the process. And then one overarching topic is actually efficiency. You know, I mean, everyone knows currently the end-to-end efficiency in the value chain, because there are so many different processes involved, is relatively poor. So since we have components in each and every step that have also an impact on the efficiency because they are on major power consumers, we think this is really like, you know, a lot of small screws make a big effect if you look at industry scale. So that's really what we are working on. And I mean, coming now to the achievement, I think in the last 1 year we achieved to really trigger a discussion with a lot of players, from electrolyzer manufacturers to developers to EPC companies, and also a lot of political parties, where we got some really good feedback that to offer this perspective from a supply chain perspective, to really advocate for the developers talking to the supply chain early on. We also have our R&D project for our component level that also have multi-year lead times. So you need to have all these things in place if you want to have the big project. So I think that was really good. Of course, it's ongoing, but I saw a really shift in the discussion in the past 1 year.
Amazing. So I know that you guys you do shift your focus being a component, and like you said, on the sealing side of things, that there's so much you guys can do and offer the whole value chain. But what's like in the short term, your current focus at the minute?
I mean, in hydrogen, as I said, our focus is on sealing rotating machines.
Yeah.
So the compressors and the pumps, mainly, also some reactors. Like in carbon capture, you have some rotating reactors that need to be sealed off. And then the filters. So in hydrogen refueling stations, in electrolyzer plants, across the value chain, everywhere you need filters to protect the equipment. And it's really important. Part of our business, aside from the components, is actually services. Because all these components have to be maintained over the lifetime of a plant. So in our traditional industries, we have a lot of experience working with operators to ensure reliable operation. And now we have a lot of new customers or new players that are still working on developing technology, so they are not yet in the thinking process to think about, okay, long-term operation, but it will come. And we position John Crane also as a partner that can help players to benefit from the long experience we have in other process industries to help them operate their plants once they start operating.
Yeah, amazing. And so you're kind of getting ahead of the curve, ready for when those partnerships can happen, as well as being quite forward thinking and acting now. So it is really nice. So let's go back to Germany, mechanical engineering. You step into your first position. What 3 pieces of advice now would you give yourself back then?
Well, I think one thing that I kind of regretted was I didn't do any study abroad when I was still studying. So whoever is still in that phase of their career or their life, I highly recommend to do that. I did it afterwards and in the business, and I really enjoyed international business, but I think that probably would have given me a more perspective to know what I really want to do. Right?
Yeah.
The second advice is really try to follow your dreams. I mean, try to identify something that you're passionate about and do it. Also, if you want to, found your own business or it will be much easier when you're still young and independent. Then, of course, it's challenging to get funding, but you don't have high living costs. You are more flexible, and I think it's a really good time to try. Right? So I think we see a lot of young people now in the startup ecosystem, which is really exciting, and I love interacting with them. So I wish I had done it at that age.
Yeah, definitely. And lastly, kind of just to sign off then, in terms of thinking like now, what's one piece of advice overall that you would really promote for someone to take on?
Well, I mean, I think that let's say two target groups for this, right? There are the young people who are at the beginning of their career, and then there are people who are transitioning from other careers potentially into clean energies. But I think for both of them is the advice really, okay, are you passionate about it, and do you really want to change the world, right? I mean, that was my motivation. I wanted to do something where I feel it's a cause, and you are a small wheel, but you are working on something to make the planet a better place, right? And I have kids in the meanwhile, and you get a different perspective, and you want to make sure we leave the planet in a better state than we got it, and it looks pretty challenging currently, right? So I think we really need to do an effort.
Yeah, definitely. I think passion is the main kind of word of the sector.
Yes.
And if you have that, the resilience then comes with it, the curiosity then comes with it, the innovation then comes with it, and you kind of map out your journey as long as you have the passion, because then you're willing to go forward. So there's amazing insight there, and I can't wait to see what John Crane and you do over the next few years. But thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Amazing.